Hello, Hassel from House Reviews here for today's review. And, well, why not waste any time? Inside Out 2, the long-awaited sequel to Pixar's 2015 smash hit Inside Out, which was both a critical and commercial success, which explored the concept of emotions within our mind and memories and all that. Now, let's start off with saying what I think of the first film. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a really great film. It was well animated, well acted, well written, and it really delved into how important sadness is to our lives. And yeah, it was a really fun, great film, and definitely one of Pixar's greatest. And like a lot of people, I thought after it really deserved a sequel, and I was really waiting for this to come. And well, and and I was excited when when it was finally announced because I really knew that they could do a lot with a sequel of this. I thought they could, as I really thought they could go to Toy Story route where they would age things a lot, you know. But yet again, Incredibles 2 sort of didn't do it like what I thought they would do, you know. But what it is, I'm glad they actually did age the character, even the character of Riley, even though it's only by 1 year. It does seem right because they do still have enough possibilities to go, like with Riley just entering as a teenager. But to be fair, I actually kind of forgot for a while that she was only for the majority of the first film, Riley was only 12. Yeah, but anyway, it's all fixed. It's all good. But of course, one thing that was a little bit, I had a little bit of question marks over was Pixar's recent track record, especially with the first 5 years of this current decade. Now, I'm not including Disney in this. They're their own separate thing, even though Disney and Pixar pretty much, they could be considered identical now. But yeah, when you look at the films so far of this decade, Pixar is probably in the most inconsistent. I mean, well, let me start by saying this. Well, when it comes to of the six, I think six, one, two, three, yeah, six films so far that released this in the last 4 years. Um, it's in the quality has been very mixed. I mean, first off, I think Onward, which I've already reviewed, deserves more attention than a lot of people than it originally got. I think it's actually a lot better, but I do know why some people think it's just okay. And while Soul and Luca are great films and well deserved their praise for being sort of different takes of what Pixar likes, especially Luca. That was probably one of their most unique films to date with what they did. Their next couple of films have been very yeah. Okay, so Turning Red. Well, I really enjoyed the fi- the the last third of it. The other two, and I thought they handled and I thought they did stuff I thought they should have done better in the movie Brave, which was released 10 years earlier. Um, the first two thirds were just so easy and predictable, and I didn't and boring in my view. But I mean, as I said, the last third was amazing. Lightyear, which I've already done a review, I think has gone worse in my view as I thought about it. Whether or not I might have to change the score at some point if I ever decide to redo that review. But yeah, and I think it's more. I think the reason why is because they made that film because they didn't, in many ways, because they didn't like the straight to video film Buzz Lightyear Star Command, which I've also reviewed. And they did Lightyear, then they did their own thing, which was basically the same as what they said they hated, but except much worse in my view. And Elemental, look, for those who actually do like it, I'm that's great, but for me, I just couldn't like it, even from the very beginning. Um, and I think also because of the fact that I thought from the advertising and way they described the film, it was going to go in one direction, but they ended up going in the direction of every other film that explores this sort of concept and story. So yeah, so yeah, despite those, so because of those previous three failures, I was a little bit cautious going into this, but well, Pixar found a way to prove me wrong. Oh yes, they proved me wrong big time. Inside Out 2 is, if not as good as the first film or equal to the first film, it might even surpass it in certain directions. Man, did I love it. Yeah. And I'm sure a lot of people are saying that too. It really is that good. Let's just move on. So we obviously, it's been a year since the first film, and Riley and the emotions living inside out in the young girl in a young teenager named Riley, that being, of course, the five emotions we see in the first film: joy, sadness, anger, fear, and disgust. Um, slowly, still doing their work, working and making Riley as good of a person as she is, getting ready for as she enters high school. But before then, she has one. They get spent. They have a couple. Riley's going to spend the next couple of days at a hockey camp, hopefully, to win a scholarship or something like that. And yeah, sounds like everything's going well. Well, as she en- but just before the night before she goes to camp, the emotions discover that the puberty alarm on the console that they control in her mind goes off, and basically wrecks the whole thing. Basically, yeah, and you could definitely tell Riley's entering puberty with how much she overreacts with her emotions as when they try to use the console. Yeah, and it's obviously and it just so happens that the world around her is changing as her two best friends are moving to a different high school than she's going to. And at that point, we see four new emotions arrive in the state of at headquarters, which are anxiety, play played played by Maya Hawke. We have envy, inu, and I think that's how it's pronounced, inu, and embarrassment. Oh, and nostalgia too, but yeah, that gets because they brushed over. But maybe at some point we'll see it get more of a role. Anxiety become is sort of starts taking control of Riley's mind, including sending away, taking away the sphere in the middle of her mind at headquarters, which is Riley's sense of self, far away to the back of her mind. Joy and decides that because joy and the other emotions are no longer needed at this present moment. So she and the other three new emotions imprison her and are determined to change the course of um, Riley's trajectory as she enters high school with uh, to improve her, make her have a better future, which obviously leads to some problems. The other emotions are determined, and despite the other emotions aren't willing to give up and must and escape from their confinement and must traverse their way back to headquarters to restore Riley's sense Riley Riley's um, sense of self to order while reclaim the old one before anxiety corrupts it or something like that. So I guess I should mention is that there is a fair bit of retread at certain moments with this, especially when it comes to joy. I mean, you could say that joy and anxiety's dynamic is sort of similar to how joy felt with sadness. However, because joy is separated from sadness, from anxiety for a very long time, it is different in that sort of regard. And there are some other things too, like obviously, I mean, and the fact that anger, fear, and disgust are mostly traveling together with joy a lot, though sadness goes a bit on her own. Joy's insistence is actually what make is actually great. So we actually get to see a little bit more of them. Which, yeah, I guess I should mention when it comes to the recasting. Um, the recast, the actors who they recast, Fear and Disgust for, did a pretty good job. I'm glad that a lot of but I am glad that they did keep who they should have. I mean, obviously they had to also recast Riley's voice actress from the first film. And the person they got is pretty good. Now I think about, I think there's only about maybe one, two, three. I think there's only about eight voice actors from the first film who return. I think I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, I'm glad. At the very least, I'm glad that they kept they kept obviously Amy Poehler, which is her salary is all the reasons why we didn't really get Fear and discuss previous actors to return. Yeah, I'm glad they also kept Phyllis Smith as Sadness and Lewis Black. You couldn't. if they replaced him as anger, it would have really hurt the film because he is that. He is just purely that character, and that's purely yeah. But yeah, but I think the best thing is that eight obviously the story aging in the right direction. Obviously, Riley's now a teenager and entering high school and just starting to go through puberty. So, which is why it's sort of interesting to see how that affects her, how the emotions have to you know find a way to control it or and keep her the same, but also change her in the right direction. The animation, of course, is fantastic. In fact, I'm just going to say the animation is great. Store's probably even better than the first film. Definitely an upgrade. And the expansion of emotions really does fit for this. And the thing is, and all these emotions really do fit as a person becoming a teenager. And yeah, we can all identify with everything the emotions make Riley do with this because we all probably gone through it at this point as when we become when we were a teenager or something like that, and like that. Um, and the emotion, and of course there is obviously the pacing is handled pretty well, and how they expand the emotions in general as characters. I mean, seeing Joy a bit, feeling depressed and feeling like Riley doesn't need her as anxiety controls her life and seems to be a little bit for the better or worse. It affects her, and seeing sadness, and seeing anger be a bit more sentimental is also great. And I guess a little bit of fear and disgust as well, and sadness. Um, having a bit more, taking a bit more charge and everything, or something like that, or a bit like that. The pacing, as I said, is great. The humor, it's a little bit more funnier than the first one, I will say, and I appreciate it, especially when it comes to the things locked in the back of Riley's mind when the emotions get stuffed up. They get imprisoned at the beginning of the film, and yeah, actually, all I will say is the Blue's Clues joke that was probably funny, and how Anger has to rely on it later. That's pretty funny. The video game crushed thing though. It's obviously a reference to Final Fantasy, but they do an original character, so because I guess they couldn't. I mean, despite so they won't. So there's no. You don't see anyone like Cloud or Squall or Zid, Zidane uh or Titus. Yeah, I'm saying Titus, not Titus. It would have been cool if Cloud did show up because the voice actor for this character sounds almost similar to Steve Burton or Cody Christian. But personally, I think it would have been cool if they actually had Sora be the video game crush and it would have been easy because obviously Disney owns Sora, the rights and all that. Although I think I can see now but I think I can maybe understand why as to maybe they didn't. And look, I think it's pretty much obvious. Obviously, well, I think a lot of people really want an Inside Out world to be in Kingdom Hearts 4, and you have to see how they handle this joke. I can definitely see how that can work now, and yeah, I'm all for it. And pretty much been. I always felt like it was a good idea, but I didn't know how they could handle it. But now seeing this film pretty much shows that they can handle Kingdom Hearts can handle an Inside Out world. But yeah, yeah. But I would have liked it was Cloud or Sora, and would have been cool if I heard Haley Joel Osment. Obviously, Haley Joel Osment. Yeah, but that's what I'm trying to say. But it would have been written a little bit differently if it was Sora as the character, because I wouldn't. I probably don't think disgust, fawning over the character would have worked if it was Sora. It probably would have worked as Joy. But yeah. Um, um, but anyway, the others. But I think the best thing in this is definitely how well they handle anxiety. Um, And I should mention, Maya Hawke this is definitely she's the best voice actress in this. I think she outdoes. I mean, Amy Poehler, Lewis Black, Phil Smith, and all the others do a good job. But Maya Hawke is definitely above them in this film. And how well they handle it is really well done because I and it really was important they got this right to me because I've mentioned before I have autism. And I've had and I've had severe anxiety problems when I was a teenager. And seeing everything that anxiety does. You could say she is the antagonist, but it's hard to call her the villain because she's doing it with the best intentions. And that's the most important thing to say about this is much like how sadness is important in our lives, anxiety is also. And yeah, there's a lot of bad things that can come from anxiety. I mean, I sure experienced it, but anxiety can lead to a lot of good things. In fact, fear is the first to identify just how much anxiety is actually a benefit for Riley. And yeah, I everything they do with it is makes a lot of sense. And when it's only when things really seem out of control that anxiety can really, corrupt things. This is what happens in the the last third when anxiety thinks she's got the plan right to help Riley succeed in going to high school, but when she constructs a new sense of self, it ends up causing more issues and causes her to go into a panic, which leads to the resolution of the sense of self, which is fantastic. And oh, when they play the theme for Inside Out, right after the emotions um sort out the issue. Oh, and oh, that's so good. And yeah, it really did. I didn't get emotional with this. I've never outside of I think maybe once with Coco and obviously Toy Story 3's ending. Well, the endings of both Coco and Toy Story 3. I've never really got emotion. I've never cried at a Pixar film, but this this definitely it tugged on my heartstrings. I didn't cry, but I felt oh, it really did leave me with a really warm feeling. Yeah. So yeah, I loved Inside Out too. It's fantastic. I think it might even be just slightly better than the first one in certain ways. Like, I think I'm not sure whether I can. I'll have to think about whether I can top this because I give them pretty much roughly. Well, I've never reviewed Inside Out, but there are some really good things that make Inside Out 2 a real standout and why I appreciate it so much. Yeah, it's a great film and definitely worth a watch. And if you think Pixar is in a bit of a rut, watch this film because they finally got one right after a very long time. This gets a 9 out of 10 has stars from me. Yeah, I loved it and definitely watch it. Well, not sure. Well, what's next on my channel? You're just going to have to wait and see. It might even be a big project, a special thing I'm working on. So you'll just have to wait. Or it could be another film theaters or something else. You never know. In the meantime, Hazard from Hazard Reviews is out, and I shall see you next time. Ciao.